Hey everyone, and welcome to Decode My Life. I'm Christy, life coach and decoder, and I help people look at all sides of their lives. Most of us just focus on the physical or this side of their lives, when in fact we have a mental side, an emotional side, a spiritual side, and then there's the other side. These factors play a far greater role in our lives that very few of us understand, so I'm here to help. So let's get started. Today's topic is patterns. We are all in patterns that we take on to have a particular life experience. When we get to a frustration level with these patterns or become aware of how we are stuck in them, it is often that time to clear these patterns so that we may experience a greater level of freedom in our life. In today's podcast, I'm going to structure this into 3 parts. The first part is defining the concept of what a pattern is and how to recognize them. The second is an example of a common pattern called lack of confidence. And then the third part is the solution to patterns and the clearing process. So what exactly is a pattern? A pattern is a series of behaviors that are held together by a fixed set of agreements. These pattern agreements drive one's thoughts, emotions, and then therefore their actions or behaviors. Once we agree to take on a particular pattern, we are stuck in it until we recognize it and conduct a clearing. While patterns are as old as mankind is on the planet, there are many more patterns in place nowadays than ever before. When man was originally separated from source, the original patterns were driven around survival that often created fear. Fear is defined as false evidence appearing real. In other words, just an illusion. However, fear produces a series of biochemical reactions in our bodies that result in a flight, fight, or freeze syndrome. This means our adrenaline will kick in if we fear for our lives or scared of a situation. In his 1994 book, Transforming Your Dragon, Jose Stevens discusses 7 patterns that arise from fear. These patterns are so common that the vast majority of people are acting out one or more of these patterns right here in present moment. The 7 patterns that he defines include greed, which is the fear or lack of, stubbornness, which is the fear of change, matrodrome, which is the fear of worthlessness, self-destruction, which is the fear of losing control, self-deprecation, which is the fear of being worthless, impatience, which is the fear of missing out, and arrogance, the fear of being judged. This book is a great start for anyone that would like to learn these common 7 patterns. There are 3 major ways to take on a pattern. The first is in this lifetime. We make agreement to take on the pattern. For example, you admire your father, but he's really arrogant, and you admire your mother, but she acts out in self-deprecation. However, you believe this is how a mother and a father should act, therefore agreeing to those patterns. The second way is you have a pattern in another lifetime, which you never learned the lesson, and therefore it carried over into this lifetime. The third way is called the bleed-through pattern, and this is when a relative transfers the pattern consciously or unconsciously to a child. So what are some examples of other patterns and how do we identify the agreements to these patterns? Other patterns can include things such as lack of responsibility, lack of confidence, or simply just being clumsy. The possibilities of patterns are actually endless. We can even have our own self patterns, those we act out just by ourselves. There are family patterns, societal patterns, and also just human patterns. So let's take a look at the example of lack of confidence. The first step is to identify the 4 basic behaviors in this pattern. The 4 basic behaviors that we identify in the patterns are as follows. 1, unsure about how to act. 2, inability to make decisions. 3, constantly asking others for their opinion. And 4, disconnected from a sense of knowing or wisdom. The second step is look at the agreements by the 6 sides of the game. So our physical body. The basic agreement is to act out being unsure. The emotional body, the basic agreement is to act out childlike emotions. The mental body, the basic agreement is to take considerable amounts of time and energy to have any thought that drives any decision making. And then the spiritual body, the basic agreement is only view this reality through the pattern imprint. So once you've identified the basic behaviors of a pattern, and you also identified all the agreements associated with the pattern, in order to remove the pattern, the fastest way is to do a clearing. This is a process that's been developed to permanently remove the pattern. Once it's identified and cleared, the person can actually then see what they are acting out and the behaviors on the other end. If you're having difficulty from a particular pattern you might be in or would like to learn more about patterns, I do one-to-one special pattern consultations. You can reach out to me at my website, decodemylife.com, email me, or definitely read a comment if this information relates to you. Let us know about any patterns you think that you might be in. And thanks for stopping by and listening to Decode My Life.